Welcome to Carl DeGregorio's Death Session 60. I got something for that number. 60 homers was a big deal for a long time. 60 being the first player was Babe Ruth. I think 60 was the big one number. And 62 with Roger Maris. So I need to save that for 62, but 60 this year, I think Shohei Ohtani, I had 60 or 50. I don't know. It's a lot of homers. And for a certain degree of what this is, it's a lot of episodes, maybe. It would be a lot of episodes today. 22 was the old-fashioned number of episodes of network television. So 22 episodes. So that's... almost 3 seasons, so, or more than, it would be, more than 60, but nowadays with everything being 10 or 8, that would be, probably 60 is the new 100 episodes, maybe 50 even would be the new, 100 episodes, and those are hits, and those are the rare air we all dream of, and then we would deign to, after all of those years, we would then deign to have the notion of being worn out from typecasting, or, McDreamy, Patrick Dempsey, having issues about having too many hours on the set, and all these things that become... and I'm not poo-pooing them, because that's really what I'm kind of got a couple things this week. I'm not poo-pooing that notion, because it sounds, everyone comparing themselves is bad for your health, bad for your mind. But to the actor who is fortunate enough, talented enough, and kept their looks enough, and who works on these shows, it is a lot of work. Why would I be pursuing it? Why would I have studied it? To then mock the person who says it's a lot of work, and then it's the guy at home who doesn't work in the arts saying, "Yeah, I do that. I just stand on set for 10 hours a day for that kind of money." And the answer is that's true. That is true. But if I have that take that it's a complaint, that I have crossed over to the other side, if that's my feeling. Do you know what I mean? I'm saying being a network television star and working all those hours isn't laborious. It's a labor of love, yes, but it is many, many hours, and it does take its own toll. It takes its own energy. It takes its own dedication. And so for me to sit there and mock that sort of life decision that someone makes to leave a long-running show that is many, many hours and many, many years, and it's not like I lament having to do like shift work, like working in a restaurant. Like if something bad happens, you can't just go and, get there for your kid in the middle of a shift. I guess you could if it was dire enough, there'd be somebody there, but you're less likely to be let to leave work on a movie set or a fucking TV set. And if you're on location out of the country, what are you going to do? That would take a toll on a family. And so it's hard to hear, like on Entertainment Tonight, that I was just too burnt out. It was too much work, and I was, grinding myself to a nub when you envy the position. But for me to actually be mocking of that as if, it's the guy saying, "Oh, I'm playing basketball," or for that kind of money, or the boxing, I do that for, it's just, yes, but we're of this culture now where the presentation abilities have become pedestrian amount of skill. To shoot this before computers would require the 3-point light system, would require a camera, would require a monitor. I'd have to frame it. I'd probably need a director. I would need I would need to transfer whatever format I was shooting on to something, then edit it. Unless it was just like a camcorder, But you understand what I'm saying is that this stuff has, and the quirky thing about podcasting and YouTube is that the mere act of talking into microphones is pretty basic and pretty low fidelity. But the mechanism, the fact that this has to bounce, has to travel to a server to bounce off a satellite to then go out to the world, that technology is incredible. And yet the conceit of the content, if you will, is two people talking on a podcast or one person talking on a vlog, and mostly listened to and not maybe even watched, so that it even harkens back to radio. So the idea, though, that people have sort of transitioned or are able to produce high quality, maybe without the quality of content, makes us all diminish the efforts of people we think we can do just as well as. The best example I can think of is people with their fantasy football teams thinking that they could be a general manager. And maybe that's true if you win every fucking year, and maybe that's true, but then you leave out all the steps that got that person that job. What is really at stake, what is really the budgeting constraints, the draft, all that time-consuming, all-consuming job that, yes, it is a very enviable gig, I guess, but it's that arrogance of thinking you could do it. And the problem is something like what Prince does, the late great Prince, or some of these virtuoso performers, you can pretty much, you have to yield to that kind of talent. But acting is a little more ephemeral, and so when you hear Patrick Dempsey complain, you're like, what the fuck is he complaining about? And I should be so lucky to ever have that complaint, and may I be so lucky as to have that complaint, because until then, I will continue to do a lot of this stuff in anonymity, on my own dime, for spec, so it's just a little different depending on your chosen art form. And with the promise of AI, which is plaguing my mental health, to be honest with you, it is decreasing the necessity for a lot of the technical crafts and freaking everyone out. And eventually, the label of man-made may be like the label of organic, and maybe that'll be a smaller niche than the AI generated stuff, and that freaks me the fuck out, because too many times the lower denominator has risen. I remember the lament during the strikes of all of the actor strikes and the writer strikes were circumvented by the studios with reality television, game shows, American Gladiator, and things like that came to prominence. Now, as a kid, blissfully unaware of what was coming down the pike as a union actor, and as a person who was I think I was already doing it, but before I got into the world of it, American Gladiator was a perfectly innocent time suck and something to laugh about. And I definitely, by the time the strike of the early 2000s came, I was a vociferous critic of reality television as a thing that was harming us, and I guess that is a folly, and that is sort of it's true and it's untrue. I think actually reality TV had more of an impact on society than it did on the acting and the arts community. I may be talking out of my ass and not really backing that up with data, but it affected how people resolved conflicts with flipping tables, or the only thing that move the needle on a reality shows, because they do need narrative and they do need something, and they need conflict, is that it just became one conflict after another. And it didn't have things like resolution. So yes, there can be conflict in a scripted drama, but very tritely say in a sitcom, they would resolve it in a half an hour and the family would have dinner. Or even Hill Street Blues, the police captain and the defense attorney would be canoodling in the tub or about to make love in the bedroom as they were on opposing sides, and it would sort of resolve with them sort of podcasting at the end of the episode, if you will. And so those formats are different than in a reality show, where the resolution is someone gets the fucking rose, or someone wins the apprenticeship, or someone wins the contest, the game show. And game shows, that's all the idea of non-scripted. And so the rise of those, it makes me very pessimistic, I guess, about where our attention has gone, will go, and continue to go, and whether the discerning eye will still, if you can't tell the difference because of your lack of knowledge or because you don't know the facts any different, would you, if there's no discernible difference, I don't tend to lean into the highbrow winning out over the lowbrow, or for lack of a better word, the discernment of the general population will for sure bring this stuff to market in a way that will probably upset me. And there's not a lot I can do about it. And I guess that's the issue I'm having vis-a-vis mental health. There's so many things out of my control. And so many trends going away that I don't align with, not out of any purity or any zeal or any virtue. It's just I feel out of step with a lot of it, and I feel like I guess part of what creativity for me is to create the world you wish to see. And when you find yourself unable to contribute on a scale that weighs in or tilts a scale, you start to panic. And that's just honest, and I don't want to, basically lean into that. And I'm trying to, again, accentuate the positive and be upbeat and, lean into, again, the things that are going right in my life and the things that are fixable and or improvable, and attitude being primary and preeminent in that. I don't like to make these topical as a week to week thing. The idea of making these evergreen is very important to me for archival purposes, but I'm allowed to have these coincide with the week, and I'm not doing current events or topics. But I will say that I got to see a screening at the Fox lot for SAG screening of Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere, with a Q&A with the director and some of the cast and the casting director. And I have spoken. The cool thing that's happening again in my life is that this connection with Bruce Springsteen as a youth was, I was mocked for having a weird, out of sync, out of touch with my generation. I was mocked as a younger kid for my affinity for Bruce Springsteen, because it was pre-Born in the USA, and he didn't make it easy when that Nebraska album came out for me to proselytize to his, it just wasn't going to appeal to a junior high, middle schooler or a junior high kid. It was just not going to appeal when all the dance music and all the pop music of the day in the 80s he was counterculture to that. And it wasn't until Born in the USA became such a mega hit that my early affinity based on my birth order and my older brothers and siblings, and just liking that music, it paid off, and it became the zeitgeist. And then he stayed for a long, long time. And now that movie is puts him back on the mass medium, and the beauty of the movie is that you have a, I guess I would say millennial. I don't think he's Gen Z, or maybe he's Gen Y, but the Jeremy Allen White is playing Bruce, and he's from The Bear, and so we're morphing the generations into an amalgamation and an approximation and a biopic, and so many things about it were great for me, and I will not really make it a review, but the things that were great for me were several. I stress out about public events as of late and as long as I can remember. I think part of why I drank a lot of beers was to calm anxiety and nerves and make the social lubricant. But I have a shyness and an agoraphobic kind of nature, and so in anticipation of this, it was on the Fox lot, the actual lot, and as an actor, I've been there several times where they don't let you on the lot. They do if you're a big name actor, but when you're just auditioning, sometimes they don't let you on the lot. So there's this huge swaths of land you have to traverse, and they tell you you can get there hours early and still be late for your audition. And so I was swirling in that vortex, and we took a wrong turn. We weren't. This is my channel, so I'm gonna, beef with my buddy who was kind enough to put me as his +1. But as we're driving, he says, it says here gate 4, and he goes, why don't you take a left here? And I said, but that says gate 7. So why the fuck would we take a left into gate 7 when gate 4 is clearly not? And of course we were in the wrong place, and of course we then had to double back, and there was a 3-lane left that I wasn't going to take, and we had left so early, and so we have all this was like sum of all fears was being baked into this cake of anxiety, maybe self-fulfilling, and eventually we found the right place without a lot of my consternation. And to be perfectly honest, the fluidity and the way the security and the way the parking, it was so well executed, and we were ushered to the screening room and allowed to walk through the lot, and everybody was happy and everybody was glad. And so on the positive, and I won't dwell on I just wanted to frame you what the machinations sometimes of how it is to go out there. And I think that's the beauty of it, is that the reason I jumped at the opportunity was the Bruce movie, of course, but also the communal aspect of the theater, which has been something that has waned and that has been decimated by the pandemic and by a lot of the choices of the studios, to be honest. And so this was a chance to be in a beautiful screening room, a theater, a big one, two aisle, many seat theater, not too big, but it was on the Fox lot. It was the Zanuck Theater, and it was packed, and so that's a great feeling. The sound had to be important for a music thing. The soundtrack, needle drops that weren't Bruce songs are really really cool. I won't spoil them for you because there's some winners. There's actually one that I in the in the Napster LimeWire days, I guess I put a playlist together and emailed it to a buddy to go fetch the songs for me, and it was one of those, and a great Santana song. Anyway, that was, and there was an energy in the theater because we knew there'd be a Q&A with some of the cast, and I had a fantasy with all my friends back east that And it wound up being, Bruce did perform at the AFI screener. I thought he might come to the SAG one. So I had this fantasy in my head that Bruce might do a pop-in because he's been all over this. And he has been in LA. And that's the cool part of the movie, is there is an LA element. And as the nation and as certain pundits shit on Los Angeles, and there's a lot wrong with Los Angeles, and the fact that the movie industry has fucked itself and that the decisions have been made that make it hard to shoot here. And the director, Scott Cooper, talked about how, he loves LA and he's so glad that there's an LA element. He said that Bruce himself loves LA. If you know the story of Bruce's life, without spoilers, you know that as soon as he graduated high school, his mom and dad moved to California. And in his book and in many interviews and in the one-man show, it was sort of his father's like empty nest, last-ditch hope to sort of quell the monster, to make his life, give himself a chance at some happiness by that great go west notion, and that maybe going to the coast and the sunlight, and maybe there was a way they had one last gasp at a chance for happiness. And so that was in the cake of Bruce's family moving, but it left him isolated back east when he stayed back, and things were going well eventually, but that's where the movie starts. And so I said my stress about the traversing and dealing with my anxiety, but then being rewarded with competency in the parking, that was a good thing. And the theater was nice, and we were there well in time. People around us were friendly. There was a vibe. And then the film itself and the music, and it was very heartening, very sad, and very emotional. I will say that the themes that are always prevalent in Bruce's music, which is, the real American underbelly, people left out of the equation a lot of the time, and a lot of the father-son stuff is just very heavy dosed in these what does do not disturb actually mean anymore, if it still comes through? So the notion of all of that baked into some really good performances. I mean, there was a lot to maybe quibble with. The stature has always been the issue with Jeremy Allen White. It's neither here nor there in The Bear. He's, not again. But when he played Kerry Von Erich in Iron Claw, sure, the low body fat and the definition on the biceps might make you think he could be a wrestler, but he's so diminutive. And Kerry Von Erich was he was going to be on the Olympic team if they didn't boycott in 84, 80. What was it? I don't know. He was 275 pounds and 6'2". So they kind of dropped it there. Bruce isn't so imposing, but he's still even smaller than Bruce. So, but films are told through the close-up, and so he was up to the task, and he did great with the singing, and he did great with the there is a kind of climactic scene in the studio where you're moved. The thing that I want to say before, without spoilers, is there are things that I just didn't know would be moving that were, and I was predisposed, and I may be a little low mood and a little melancholy, so it doesn't take much these days to bring about emotion. So and it was a dark enough theater, and there was a sort of collective, and I've seen this online from many other people at non-performer screenings, and actually opening night was last night, that there was a hush. There was a reverent hush in the theater. And so whatever the shortcomings, or whatever if you're going to give it 2.5 stars or 3, or not give it 5, whatever the hell you're going to say about it, like, that is an accomplishment. And that's, I think, the theme what I talked about many episodes ago, and a through line is, it's not my job to be a critic of it. It's my job to be motivated or inspired or to aspire. We're there to watch their film to then nominate them for this SAG award, and that's vain and venal, and I that whole thing. But they had the Q&A, and Jeremy Strong, who's excellent in this, may have had a few rambling run-on sentences about this, that, and the other, but it was a very good Q&A. Paul Walter Hauser and Odessa Green, everybody was there. Francine Maisler, the casting director. There was really good stories. They were sincere, and I think that's really what it comes down to. And in the age of AI, and it reasserted my sort of fandom for Springsteen, especially because there was a multicultural vibe. Still, not... I joked with a friend, how was it? I said, oh man, it was like a bunch of boomers just weeping in the audience. There were a lot of white-haired fellas of a certain age just really, and that's what the Springsteen concerts that I've been to over the years is like. You will see grown men cry or grown men try to emote or use Bruce as the only place they're gonna like feel that stuff. And so that's why Nebraska was for me it's just not what I needed as a kid to I like the rockers, and I'll be controversial and say I just heard the Atlantic City Electric version is much better for me. And I get what Bruce was after. He was after that odd, isolating thing, and what a interesting choice. And the beauty of the story is the friendship between him and Landau. And man, any artist with a manager and a friend like that, I think you could honestly say that it hasn't been duplicated, other than maybe what Sharon Osbourne felt for Ozzy Osbourne, but they became man and wife. So, but the care that John Landau's taken with Bruce Springsteen's career is in full display. And it's I like Jeremy Strong. He's a great actor. I don't like the pretentious stuff I've heard about him, and I do think he does sometimes have a gimmicky mannerism or voice, but like it all went away with how good he was in this. And when it comes time for that that insignificant vote of mine for the SAG Awards, I'd be hard pressed to not circle for Jeremy Strong individually. And for the cast of this, I'm sure there's some other good movies coming down the pike, but I think this is a clear front runner, and for good reason. And I guess a lot of people felt let down. I was not let down. I believe in the profundity of life as it is, as exultant as moments can be, just for being and for the many splendors that are afforded us as lucky human beings, maybe in America, maybe across the world, in a God-fearing way, that there's no need for over stimulation and over technology, and this movie brings that home for me. And so that acoustic, bare bones approach, I mean, I sold myself back into the importance of that record, even if it's not the one I spin the most. And just the power of the vision, and it's to me, the more I sit with it, the more I think it's a beautiful movie, and that's the feat. Like, this is the anti-AI movie, I think, and they probably used AI to blend. There's the points in the movie where you can tell they're blending and then fading into the Bruce version. They have Jeremy Allen White singing, and then they fade in Bruce's, and Bruce takes over. But then I don't know if they don't do sort of a doubling voice thing, sort of like Marvin Gaye would do in the studio, and so. That's using some kind of voice modulator or some kind of synthetic blend in the sound mix. So there's AI that it is a tool, but like I think this is the anti-AI movie because the acting is very plain, the story is very plain. It's the shot richly warm and rainy streets of Asbury. I mean, I could smell the leaves when I'm from New Jersey, so a lot of that stuff spoke to me, and it's the anti-AI movie because Bruce gives you that human authenticity, you know. Whoa, sorry there, guys. He gives you the wrong notes, the rasp in his voice, the acoustic guitar where the string vibrates, the bad audio on that. It's literally a tribute to the power of one man and a guitar, and the power of a vision, and the power of, and I think it's very moving. And I was surprised. I thought I knew where I was gonna squirt tears, and then it would sneak up on me, and it got everybody in the audience with just silence. And it's not big sweeping stuff. And then I'll tell you the truth, I could go two ways, and I choose to go one way because my cynical, heartbroken side was watching a fiction. It's a this is highfalutin, but there's a moment in Hamlet. It's the speech. I told you my girlfriend was studying that and taking a college course for fun and finding her way to hear her father's voice in the words of Shakespeare. But the speech I used to do, third place in monologue competition in the state of New Jersey, was the everybody knows to be or not to be, and speak the speech I pray you. Everybody knows those speeches, but the oh what a rogue and peasant slave am I speech is the one that I did. And you're sitting there and you're watching Jeremy Allen channel Bruce and screaming at his manager going, it doesn't sound right, this is not the sound, I'm trying to fight for something, man. And I'm sort of sitting there saying, I could go two ways. I could feel it in my mind. I could go two ways. I could say what a powerful message of the artist sticking to his guns, and what a powerful way for this to mean something to him. It is sort of life and death of the art, the brooding and all that stuff over this album, and the painstaking painterly stuff. Like, we don't give Van Gogh a hard time in depictions of how he suffered for his art, so why would we do so for Bruce? But I was also sitting there going like, isn't, and then, part of me was like, yeah, this guy's flipping out. He's making everybody's life miserable for a fucking record, a poor rock star. And then that's the cynicism of my rage and my heartbrokenness that I have to purge to move forward and to get what I want and to get the dreams and the dream boarding that I've done, and to really give over to what I need to do and what means something to me. And that's the lesson. And so as I was being pulled in after a few moments of giving the cynicism a test, I had to give in. And then the things that moved me were without spoilers, they snuck up on me. And the beauty of that, and the beauty of, there's people will not be as I'm fairly certain I'm right about this, but there's a monologue line, or not a monologue, there's a long run of words that Jeremy Strong speaks in the trailer that is not in the film. And it's very highfalutin. He says Bruce has to heal himself, and then when he's done healing himself, he's going to heal the world. And that was in the trailer, and I don't remember that being in the film. And meaning that he had to get this sort of dark album out of his system, and then that Born in the USA, which was, a lot of those songs were all kind of written at the same time and kept off the Nebraska record, right? That the art can sort of soothe and point. It can be a pointer, and it it has to mean something to you, or it won't mean anything, and then it is just content, and then AI can win. And so I don't know if that's at all baked into the cake. I wish they would open a Q&A where I could ask something like that, but there was something analog about it that is offering hope. And I know the director talked about hoping that we can shoot more films in LA, and that was his wish, and that he thought the best actors in the country were in LA, even though he had a bunch of New York actors sitting next to him. And I thought that was dope and probably pandering, but at the same time, he lives here and he lost his house in the fires, and you hear stories about Springsteen put him up in his house. Just go right now and stay at my house. And you hear stories of father visiting the set, and the actress said that after his father got to talk to Bruce, that there was a gift waiting for her in the trailer for her father. And so I'm sorry, anybody who doesn't think that just being that kind is a fake, or I vibe on that, and I don't listen to Bruce as much as I used to, and there's other things that keep me excited, but I feel like I picked a good icon, and it's the last guy, and maybe I don't need to meet him, but someone whose brand is like painstakingly self-reflective, who had issues and fought through them, and just tried to love his art and his fans, and is nice to people. I mean, I know that's the mythology, but it's a good one to pick. And so there's a lot of idol worship that is not worth diving into, and but Bruce he's the lone survivor of being as cool as the image, I guess, and I think that comes through, and it just makes me feel good that there's this new generation of people that are going to put him and keep him in the pantheon for me, and it's gonna be a source of inspiration. And I'll tell you, as far as my one-man show, I have filled out an application and a pitch, and I had to kind of on the fly, because I had reached out to a theater that has a sort of a play development wing, and they have an application, but I had already reached out several times, and so it was time to sort of put up and shut up. And so I had to fill out the form in incomplete ways, logos I don't have and reviews I don't have, and I had to say like this would be a premiere, and so we are still in a development stage, and I had to cut, copy and paste my synopsis in, and I had to put my bio in, and I had to make myself sort of put myself out in this application as scrutinized for your consideration. And when I did my informal reading, I was cutting things for time, and one of the things I cut was a Springsteen story, and I don't have any direct contact, so that's probably why I decided to take it out. But in the Q&A after my reading, everybody's like, where's the bit about Bruce? Like, I can't believe, of all the people I've ever met and all the lingering characteristics of my constant warbling is I'm a Bruce fan, and everybody knows it, and how could I leave that out of my one-man show? And so I've put it back in, and I'm hoping the person assures me that the next time the committee meets to see if this would be one of the plays they'll help develop, I'll be in the pile. And so fingers crossed. And the thing that's cool about this is that this director is an artist, and got to do what we all want to do, and is not taking that for granted. And so to stay on the positive tip and to stay out of the dark, it's peer-to-peer. And so how serious he took it, how excited he is to show this, I mean, it's not a lot different than how I feel about my play and what I hope for it and all that. But if there's a chance to sort of channel that, or to keep the creative spirit of the artist of Springsteen and to align with him, and put that back in my show, then I'm definitely right to that. You know, the show may be 70 minutes instead of 50, but hopefully it's a quality 70 minutes, and that's an approximation. But this wound up being an entire. I have something on my post-it here. I'll save that for another day. But suffice to say, between seeing my buddy from back east talking about Bruce and the movie I was going to see, and then getting to see it this week and fighting through some dark moods and really relating to what happens in that film and the struggles, and I think it does have it has a mental health element that is brave and helpful, and it's not a heavy plot, but there were surprises in it. And so if this long ass Death Session wound up being a big review of the Springsteen movie, then it's a thumbs up from me. Please no cease and desist from the Roger Ebert website. I'm not gonna use it ever. I dug it, and I dug it maybe in spite of flaws. I don't know if it's rewatchable. Maybe I think it is. I was just glad to kind of witness it. I'm sure there was an annoying Bruce fan who was not using a whisper and was fucking ear beating his seatmate. All of these, this is when, all this like DeGregor facts of Bruce's thing. He just couldn't shut the fuck up about knowing the story that any Bruce fan knows as by rote. So yeah, that we all know, that's a stone pony, and it's like, okay, bro, and that's the tilt-a-whirl and all that shit. But we didn't need to hear from him. And so I still got it. I still got a little negative channeling, which, again, I am trying to quell. I can't let it all. I can't be like this the whole fucking time. But I am going to fight for that spirit of art and spirit of trying. And a spirit of love, because that comes through. That comes through heavy. And if you're without a heart, you might not really enjoy it. But I would say be ready for a few push-ins, a few emotional push-ins, and take the ride, and don't and bring tissues. So I guess that's going to do it for 60. Again, it was a long, meandering ode to this film and to Springsteen, and again, a guy who doesn't need any more attention is definitely getting some more, and good for him, you know. And I don't know when the next. That's the thing I will say before I sign off is there is something generationally that needs probably some investigation, and other people are doing it now. I only bring up Gen Z, Y. It's just like that. That's age old. But it does seem that if AI is going to do our music writing and, God forbid, our movie making and all this stuff, that, you know, there was a mechanism that shut down, that we are robbed of the next Springsteen, you know, as if the torch couldn't be passed, which is not to say there aren't great artists moving forward, but who's the generational catalog artist of this era? Probably Taylor Swift. So maybe we have ours, and I just don't see it. But, you know, the idea that more old music is sold than new music in terms of like spins and catalog has more to do with the music industry ensuring that pre-existing IP be monetized more than fostering an artist to become the kind of catalog artist that Bruce was, that many have been. And I think whether you love him or hate him, and you can keep his politics out of it if you're able, the prolific nature of it is probably more to do with John Landau keeping him in the game and protecting him. But the output is there, and for The Rising, for example, to be an album that is in the back nine of his catalog, being as good as it is, and Letter to You and things like that, that maybe he is just that much of a writing machine. And there's plenty of misses on some of those tracks, albums and stuff, but he's it's not just the machine that kept him in there, it's him and his management. But there should be a hope for an artist to be that prolific again, and maybe it comes after my time here on Earth. I hope not, but we should be hoping and nurturing and waiting for, and maybe it's Lin-Manuel Miranda, maybe it's that the songwriting and prolific music is just coming in different forms and different people and different genres, or God forbid there's a sort of a new thing that emerges, a digital virtuoso, that someone who will be the next Springsteen isn't a musician, it's some kind of content person, or someone who knows how to manipulate AI. I just hope, and that we understand and we prefer and we remember that part of what made this so beautiful was the communal aspect, how nice everybody was, the fact that we were out of our houses, that the actors were there, that it was about the presence, and the presence felt of an artist through the generations with the art. And I've said that's what the great ones do, and like, love him or hate him, he's a great one. And I don't know how long it lasts, but to have a run like Shakespeare, I'm looking forward to seeing Hamnet. That's the somehow re-rendering of that story, or the source material, or a more biographically accurate telling of the Hamlet story. I'm looking forward to that, and I just hope we can hold on to our human art a little longer, just long enough for me to get my insurance one of these years. That'd be great. Or to have a few swings at the plate, and for the rest of humanity too. Let's not forget about anybody other than myself, but for our sake and for mine, I think that go see the Bruce movie, because it does hearken to the power of the human individual, and the power of friendship and healing and family, dysfunctional or not. So that's what we'll say about the Death Sessions today. I don't know what else to say. And I went off on a tangent that was different than what I had on the Post-it, but I can save the Post-it for another day. So keep on keeping on, and try to find a reason to believe, like Bruce says. Peace.